Suzuki was kind enough to set up a demo day out here at Stubb Cycles down in Southeast Houston. Let's go ride the 2024 Hayabusa and I'll let you know what I think of it. I've never ridden a Hayabusa before. Everybody swears they're an amazing bike, so let's go check it out and I'll give you my first thoughts and impressions. The 2024 Hayabusa Special Edition. It says service. Alright, we are filming on the 2024 Hayabusa. I absolutely love this color. I love all things bright and shiny. So being bright orange is awesome to me. I'll let that V-strum go ahead. I have ridden so many motorcycles in my time, but I have never ridden a Hayabusa. So this will be a new experience for me. You'll get my first impressions. Hopefully it's useful to you if you're looking to buy one, or if you're curious about somebody who's ridden hundreds of motorcycles' thoughts on a Hayabusa. This is not just a go fast bike. This bike has all kinds of trick stuff on it. It's got cruise control even, various different power modes, traction control. And I don't know if you can see it, I'll try to zoom in, but that speedometer goes to 180 miles per hour. This is one fast bike. You are still quite hunched over as if it's a super sport. My feet are directly beneath me and my hands are pretty far forward. I've got a decent amount of weight on my wrists right now. This does have a hydraulic clutch and you can feel it with the release point of it. It's fairly smooth. It is not a super grabby, like rip it out of your hands type clutch. Now this test ride is not exactly a high-speed test ride, so I will not be able to test anything that is beyond the legal limits. But I try not to do that anyway. I like abiding by traffic laws. And most people who buy a Hayabusa are like, we don't care about traffic laws. Let's go as fast as we want. Very bubbly, very aerodynamic. Big wide fairing. I mean, you could tuck behind this thing and just create a giant bubble of non-turbulent air. It's pretty slick. You definitely want to familiarize yourself with the buttons as far as the modes and everything that's within it, because there are a lot of options to choose from. When you switch between the mode button, it jumps between the power mode, the fueling mode, and traction control. When I hit that bumper, a light just came on the dash. Not sure what that was about. So far, I haven't even gotten out of first gear, but we are about to get on a little stretch of road where I should be able to get to second, maybe third gear. Maybe not. Yep, now I can do second. Oh man, I'm loving the Suzuki transmission boxes. It is a very smooth shift. I've said it before that I absolutely love analog gauges. I don't know if it's just because I've been riding for so long, but these gauges are just very nostalgic, I guess you could say. You've got an analog tachometer, an analog speedometer, even an analog fuel gauge and temperature gauge. But you do have the screen in the middle for anything that's digital, which is pretty sweet. You know, I've never ridden a bike with cruise control. Well, I've ridden a bike with cruise control. I've never used cruise control on a motorcycle. Even on long distance rides, I've always just kept my hands on the throttle and gone. But I can see where that would be convenient if you're doing long distance, really long distance rides. I had a friend back in the day, this was probably, I don't know, 15, 17 years ago. Back when I was still doing lots of track days, I had a friend that took his Hayabusa out to Jennings GP, and people were like, no way, you shouldn't do a track day on a Hayabusa, it's too heavy of a bike, it turns in too slow. And I'll tell you what, he kept up. No, it's not going to be winning any races against this GSXR 1000 that's in front of me here. That's just so much more nimble. But it handled all right. It is heavy, but it turns in pretty well. It's not super flickable, but it's decent. It's still a sport bike. You got to keep that in mind. I think it's going to turn in better than this M109 in front of me would. Bumpy part of the road. Let's see how the suspension handles it. I've got my high beam on. Why is my high beam on? I must have hit it with my finger as I put the turn signal on. I'd say the suspension's pretty decent. It's not as tight as a Super Sport, but it's not as plush as a Cruiser. It's like almost a sport tourer of sorts. I heard somebody talking before I got on this bike that they'd love to see it with like saddlebags and have it turned into a tourer, kind of like the Concourse, the Kawasaki ZX14 Concourse. That was essentially this bike's competitor as a touring bike. It gave it more upright handlebars, had a flatter seat, wow, and saddlebags. I think that was a great mix. Suzuki hasn't done that with the 1390s like this, the Hayabusa, but they've done it with the 1000s. They've got a couple different versions of the GSX 1000 out there, including the new X, I think it's called, the GTX, and that is a phenomenal sport tourer. Electronically controlled suspension, all kinds of gadgets and gadgets on that bike. And these roads in Houston are awful. It's like one of the worst roads you could take for a demo ride. The top speed's like 40. Bumpy as all get out. You got potholes and cracks and crevices, and not to mention the drivers. I don't know that I love it, honestly. This is an expensive motorcycle. I don't know that I would pay, I think it's like $19,000. I'll put the price up on the screen for MSRP of this special edition, but obviously I can't test it to its fullest abilities here. We're about to jump on the highway. I'll see how it handles on the highway, but for the type of riding that I do, I don't see it fitting my use case. I don't want to be a speed demon anymore. Now, there are plenty of people who have that use case and they want to go completely balls to the wall and go fast and cruise on the highway to 120 miles an hour, and this bike is fully capable and comfortable doing so. But I have broken both my wrists. I have herniated several discs in my back. I can't do this type of position anymore. So if I'm going to spend almost $20,000, I'm getting something that's comfortable. I have a friend that has this exact same bike and he says it's comfortable, but I don't know his history. He is a extremely athletic guy. I just saw him do a squat with 400 pounds on his back, and I was like, geez, man, my back hurts just watching that. I can't imagine if he's got a bad back he would find that comfortable, let alone this bike. So he must have a good strong back. There is a good bit of heat coming off this engine right behind the fuel tank area. All right, here comes the highway run. We're gonna hit like 60. Come on, 1000. I can't pass you. Oh, he just wants to play. Super smooth power curve. Come on, bro. Why are you going 45? And we call that slingshotting. That is not fun to do when you're on a group ride. You got to be consistent, you got to stick with the riders, and you don't want to drop back just so you can fly away. So some of you guys might hate me for saying this, but I'm not loving it. I am not loving it. Again, everybody has a different use case for how they ride and what they like to ride and what's comfortable for them. I highly recommend finding a demo ride that you could go check this out before you drop 20 grand on a bike. Suzuki does these all over the country. You can check them on their website. I'll link the description. I'll link it below in the description. Try to find a demo. Go have fun with this bike, and let me know in the comments how you ride your Hayabusa if you have one, or why you want one. I wonder if the people behind me are enjoying my sweatshirt. This is one of my WeRideTwo sweatshirts that on the back actually says, "Talk dirty bikes to me." If you don't know, I have another side of the channel that's around dirt bikes and motocross facilities. I love dirt bikes. It's a passion of mine. They're so much fun to ride and a great workout. But I thought it was a funny pun. As always, a huge shout out to Suzuki for letting us demo their bikes. And I gotta say thank you to Suzuki for letting me film too. There are a few manufacturers that don't let people film when they're on their bikes, and that makes it hard for me to create some content for you guys, and I know that this is really useful for a lot of people. I do this for you guys just as much as myself. I want to be able to share my opinions and not just talk about it on paper. I want to talk about it while I ride it. So now that I've ridden this bike, I hope that my experience on it has been helpful to you. But kudos to Suzuki for doing this, and a shout out to Stubbs Cycles down in Southeast Houston for hosting this event, because without them, Suzuki would have nowhere to go. Thanks so much. Hope that this was helpful. Have fun, stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next ride.